In today's tutorial, we'll talk about the fatty acid synthesis. More specifically, we'll be talking about the biosynthesis of the fatty acid. Means the fatty acid synthesized within the living body. Here I have three very important points through which I will make you people understand about this topic. The very first point is the fatty acid. What is the fatty acid? The second point is the mechanism through which this fatty acid will be synthesized. And the third point is the questions asked about the fatty acid synthesis. So let's start from the very first point. Fatty acid. What is fatty acid? Whenever you see C double bond O, OH, this acidic group attached with a long carbon chain, that is called as fatty acid. Now the question rises, how this fatty acid is synthesized? We have two very simple answers. The very answer is the layman answer, and the second one is the biochemical answer. So what is the layman answer? It is that whenever you take excess food or the carbohydrates that are actually then converted into fatty acid. Got? The second answer is the biochemical answer. And I will make you people understand about this biochemical answer through this mechanism. So before we move towards this mechanism, I would love to tell you people that the biological fatty acid synthesized is known as the palmitate. Palmitate is actually 16 carbon long fatty acid. 16 carbon, remember, 16 carbon long fatty acid. And the very second point that you must know before moving towards the mechanism, the second point is the site where this fatty acid synthesis takes place inside the cell. It takes place actually in the cytoplasm. Got? Now let's move towards the mechanism. So the mechanism starts here from the glucose. Glucose is supposed to be metabolized to produce the pyruvate, 3 carbon long compound. And the very second thing, that is the acetyl-CoA produced when this pyruvate moves into the mitochondria. Consider this portion as the mitochondria and this entire portion as like a cytoplasm. So now this pyruvate is entering into the mitochondria and it is converted into 2 carbon long acetyl-CoA. And this is the responsible factor for the synthesis of the fatty acid. Now this acetyl-CoA is synthesized, so it is supposed to move out from the mitochondria into the cytoplasm. So how will it move? It cannot move itself. So it needs to be modified. Now this modification will be done by combining with the oxaloacetate, the 4 carbon long compound. Now this 4 carbon long compound will combine with the 2 carbon long compound. Then they will produce 6 carbon long compound known as citrate. And this citrate has a transporter. Acetyl-CoA cannot move out because it has no transporter. And you know the inner membrane is impermeable. So now this converted or modified acetyl-CoA, you can say, which is a citrate, which is having now 6 carbon long structure. It has a transporter through which it will move out into the cytoplasm. And now this citrate will break again to produce acetyl-CoA and oxaloacetate. You know, here you got the concept. It was produced by the combination of acetyl-CoA and oxaloacetate. When it is broken, so it will back the same reactants, acetyl-CoA and oxaloacetate. Now this 2 carbon long compound, acetyl-CoA, will be converted into malonyl-CoA by help of the enzyme plus biotin. After that, this malonyl-CoA will be converted into the palmitate by means of the fatty acid synthase enzyme. And what remains is oxaloacetate in the cytoplasm. Now this oxaloacetate will be reduced into the malate. You know, oxaloacetate is a 4 carbon compound and malate is again the 4 carbon compound, but it is reduced one. And this reduced malate has a transporter, malate transporter, through which it will enter into the mitochondria. And this malate is again oxidized into the oxaloacetate, the 4 carbon long compound. And now it is available again for the new acetyl-CoA, and like this the new acetyl-CoA will again be modified when be provided back into the cytoplasm. So this process will take place 7 times. Got 7 times to produce this palmitate. And remember that this palmitate is not synthesized in one step. So that's why the questions are asked are, the very question is the 2 carbon acetyl-CoA, how it is producing 16 carbon long palmitate. Here I told you that the 2 carbon, it will actually chain up 7 times. This will chain up 7 times. Then it will produce the palmitate, which is a 16 carbon long compound. Now again question rises is that how this 2 carbon is chaining 7 times and producing the 16 carbon long palmitate fatty acid? The answer is very simple. You know, when 2 carbon chain 7 times, it is actually the 14 carbon long product. 2 multiply 7 is equal to 14. Let me make people understand here. 2 multiply 7 is equal to 14. And you know the palmitate is 16 carbon long. Guys, it will change 7 times. So here we have one available, 7 times again it will come. Means 7 cyclic process will take place. One is already available and provided, and 7 more will come. You can say 8 acetyl-CoA and 7 cycles are required to produce this palmitate. 8 acetyl-CoA, and you know again 8 acetyl-CoA, 8 multiplied by 2. Why? Because acetyl-CoA is 2 carbon compound. When you multiply 8 with a 2, you will get 16 carbon long fatty acid palmitate. So like this our palmitate is produced. I think it is easy now to understand. The second question is that what is the rate limiting step in this process? And the rate limiting step is quite obvious because it consumes a lot of time. Acetyl-CoA conversion into malonyl-CoA by means of the enzyme plus biotin. This is actually considered as the rate limiting step. And the third question is, what is the endogenous factor, the stimulant for the synthesis of the fatty acid and the inhibitor for the fatty acid synthesis? You know, insulin, which is responsible to absorb the glucose. So the more you have the glucose, the more it will undergo the process of the fatty acid synthesis. And the second point is the glucagon, and you guys know it very well that insulin is the stimulant and responsible for the glucose absorption, and glucagon is playing just opposite role. Insulin is decreasing the blood glucose level and glucagon is increasing. Means these two are antagonists to each other. And that's it from my side regarding the fatty acid synthesis or the biosynthesis. If still you have any kind of question regarding this topic, you can ask that in the comment box.